I'm Siobhan, I'm 37 from Hartlepool, I'm a hairdresser. I have a back problem, which is, I've had an MRI and it's been diagnosed as a disc bulge with facet joint degeneration, I think it's called. So I've tried various other treatments about 3 years after the back pain commenced, because you kind of expect that it's just going to subside, but it doesn't. But I found physio to be the best kind of treatment. The downside is that obviously you're given exercises and you wonder whether you're doing them correctly when you go home, but if you come for regular treatments with Paul, then he kind of tests you to make sure that you've got them right.
Think back to pre-coming for physio or for any treatment. How long did you wait before you first came? So your back pain started?
The back pain started, various GP visits, which doesn't really get you very far, and then I probably started having treatment probably about 3 years after the back pain.
3 years? Wow.
Yeah, I lived it a long time.
So what was the reason? Why did you wait 3 years?
Because you don't know what it is, and you presume that it's down to your profession, and you expect that eventually it's just going to go away by itself, but it just progressively gets worse.
What were you told? What did GP say to you?
Not very much really. They just kind of gave me some pain relief, and they didn't seem to want to find out what was actually wrong. It was only when I had severe flare-ups that I had an MRI done that diagnosed the problem.
And what about before coming to see physio? What was the one thing, if you could have asked a question, what would you want to know about physio and the experience? Or
whether it just kind of eases the symptoms or whether it can correct it altogether. I wasn't really sure what the end result after physio would be.
What's the best thing about physio?
The massage is quite nice.
Not the pain that caused you?
No, the pain's fine. And obviously it for me personally it reduces a lot of stiffness, so I feel like I have a lot more mobility after I've had the physio treatment.
What about coming here? What do you enjoy about coming here the best?
It's relaxed, I guess, relaxed atmosphere, and recommendation, I suppose.
If you had a friend who had a bad back or a shoulder or neck, would you recommend physio?
Of course.
How would you describe it?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
How would you describe physio? To your best friend. Imagine your best friend's got a bad back. How would you describe it to her?
How would I describe physio? I suppose manipulation to free up the joints, with that little, I don't know what that is that you do.
Crack.
I don't like the crack thing, yeah. I'm too keen on the crack, so I'd just tell them to hold the breath when you do the crack.
Shut their eyes and put some earplugs in, basically.
And don't yelp like I do.
Hiya, I'm Rafe, I'm from Hartlepool. I come to see Paul over the last few months after being recommended by my family. I had a problem with my neck over the last couple of years. I'd been for MRIs, X-rays, and apparently it was just an old injury. It would take a couple of years to heal. What I think I've found since then is Paul has been able to probably give a lot of credibility to physiotherapists everywhere, but especially for himself, because whatever he's done, he's freed it off, and he's given me a treatment which is sustainable, and I'm doing all of the things that I was 2 years ago without any pain. So well done to Paul and his team, and Vicky on reception always gives us a nice smile when I come in.
Live.
Hi, I'm Louise, I'm 35, I'm from Hartlepool. I do quite a lot of fell running, off-road running, and I've picked up various injuries from this over the last few years, and I've been having physio on for injuries for my knee and for my foot. I think the main thing about physio for me is to get you rehabilitated so that any weakness that you pick up through the injury, it isn't cascaded so that you might have a weakness somewhere else, and it makes sure that you're getting strength back into all the muscles and all the ligaments that you need to, so that you're aligned, so you're not picking any injuries up anywhere else.
Think back to your first ever experience with physio, or your first injury. How long did it take you to actually pick up the phone and go and see somebody about it? So not necessarily with me, just the first time that you got injured, how long did you sit every day and wait for it to get better?
It took me ages, and the injury kept reoccurring with my knee, and then I was taking time out again, and then having to get back into the training again, and then eventually you just get so that enough's enough, and then you pick up the phone and you take the first steps to getting it put right, and you realise you should have done it probably 6 months earlier.
So do you think it took you 6 months?
Probably.
So what did you do in that 6 months? What was your kind of escape route to try and find information or to get help? What would you have tried?
Well, you do the usual thing that everybody does now, and you do the Google search, which frightens the life out of you, and you self-diagnose yourself and then panic, and then you probably rest for a little bit and think that it is getting better, and you're just making it worse, or it's not getting any better, and then you end up having to do the searches to find out where you can get a good physio. What
did you think before you first came in for physio? What was the question you wanted to know, or what was in your head to kind of wonder what physio was like?
I think the question in any sort of sports person's mind is, how long is it going to take before I'm back to full fitness? I think when I thought of physio in the past, my perception of it was that you only ever had it when you had an accident, or you've been in a car accident or anything like that, but it's actually not. It's getting your body to fitness to do your sport or whatever you do, and make sure that you're not going to pick any other injuries up going forward.
If you had to describe it to a friend, or let's say your mum hurt her back and she was umming and ahhing as to go for physio, what would you say to her about the whole kind of experience of physio?
Just go and get it done. Every from the whole experience, from walking in the door to leaving the door, you'll find that it's really friendly, that the physios explain everything to you, so you know exactly what treatment you get, and you've got a kind of an idea of how long it may take to get better and what your other options are as well. So the longer you leave it, the longer you're just in mid-air really, and you're not going to get anywhere to get better. What
do you like best about physio? So of all of the things, the physical side of it or even the psychological side of it, what's your main thing with physio?
God.
What does it give you? More of a physical side of improvement, or a psychological to know what it gets, what's wrong with you and how to get better?
A little bit of both really, because I do frighten myself from doing the Google searches and self-diagnosing, but also I know that because things are so well explained to me and explained what effect the muscles or anything will have on other different parts of the body as well, it puts my mind at ease that I'm getting that strength back in those muscles so that I can go and do the sport that I want to do.
Previously we've been to osteopaths and chiropractors, and the facilities just haven't been there. It's a case of they haven't been dealing with the problem properly or correctly, and you've been going there for 2 or 3 months and you're no further forward in having the problem sorted out. So it makes you feel a little bit disheartened, and then, as Pat was saying there, we got a recommendation from some friends, and we've been coming here for, as Pat said again, for 2 years plus.
Think back to before you first ever had physio or chiropractor or osteopath. What did you want to know before you came in?
I would say if they're qualified and what the facilities are like. You can ask those things, but when you actually go, they can tell you those things on the telephone, but when you actually go there, a lot of the time you weren't actually getting what they would tell you in the first place. You weren't treated properly, the staff weren't very helpful, it was a bit cold. Here it's more friendly, it's still a business, I mean, at the end of the day, but the staff are more friendly. The facilities here are excellent, not just here, also in the other branches as well.
What would stop you from seeing a physio or a chiropractor? What would be the one thing that would put you off?
If they hurt me.
You know, I always hurt you.
Oh, that's true, that's true. And they always say I'm not going to go and see them again, but no.
Didn't you say that someone had done something, that you always ask them not to do something and they just go ahead and do it anyway?
Yeah, one of them, osteopath, I went and told him I had the bad back and I had bad neck, and I said to him, under no circumstances I want you to crick my neck, because you've done it before and it's hurt me and I've gone away and I've been in more pain. But he used to just ignore me, do the usual stuff, and then at the end of it he'd come to the top and he'd crick my neck and leave me in pain again. So that's what put me off going back to him, and that's one thing I always mention when I come, is about my neck. So, and like I said, other people have done it to me other than this osteopath. I went to a chiropractor and he did the same. So that is my main thing really, the neck problem.
What's the thing you like best about my business?
The friendliness. Everybody's really friendly. You feel relaxed as soon as you come in.
Well, it's a nice atmosphere.
It
when you walk in.
is a lovely atmosphere, yeah. You just feel you've known everybody for years, and it's like walking to somebody's house and, you know, catching up and having a good giggle and what have you.
So if you were going to recommend us, what would you say?
Well, I
If your
recommended
friend
it
had
to people.
If your friend had a bad back or a bad shoulder, what would you tell him?
I'd say go and see Paul because he's brilliant.
Thank you. You'll do for me. Put that script away.
I always tell people if I speak to anyone and they say, oh, I'm having problems with this, go and see Paul. I always say, go and see Paul.